Welcome back. As promised, I'm going to be talking to Richard Braine, who is the newly elected UKIP leader. Richard, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me on.
Many congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, I suppose I should say congratulations. The congratulations have included a rather unconventional one from George Osborne. Got me thinking what your friends call you, because George Osborne has tweeted, the new leader of UKIP is called Mr. Dick Braine. Really?
Yes, well, it's not a new joke, let's be honest. And, of course, it's a cruel irony since I'm unexceptional in either organ. But, in fact, George Osborne didn't have the guts, as I understand it, to stick with his own name. He, I think, was originally called Gideon Osborne. But I don't know if he had trouble at school. Perhaps his parents were thinking of taking him out of school or something like that because of it. But some of us have to live with our names. Every man has his cross to bear. And I live with mine with good humour. And I'm grateful that I'm able to provide entertainment and enjoyment to people because of my name.
Well, you're being a good sport about it, certainly. Now then, on to the politics. Now, I have here the result of the Brecon and Radnorshire by-election. Lib Dems first, everyone knows that. Tories second, Brexit Party third, Labour fourth, monster raving loony party, a candidate called Lady Lily the Pink. She got 334 votes. UKIP, candidate Liz Phillips, 242 votes. So you were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in that by-election. I put it to you, Richard, what is the point of UKIP now that we have a Brexit party led by your former leader, Nigel Farage?
Well, the first point I would make, don't forget, is that the pro-Brexit parties altogether, aggregated, did get a higher vote.
Yeah, I know that, Richard. I know that, but the fact is you came sixth.
Yeah, but also if you look back at the Brecon results over the years, you'll find that UKIP has consistently done very badly in that constituency. Obviously, we had in 2015 we actually did better there, but 2015 was a very good year for UKIP. So it's not, the result itself is not particularly unusual for us around there, and I don't think that it indicates the general state in the country. But it's my goal as UKIP leader to try to get UKIP's vote share up. And that will take some time and some hard work. But UKIP has bumbled along on a percent or two of the vote for many years. Don't forget that UKIP formed in 1993, and for years and years we were sort of in the wilderness saying what nobody wanted to hear, but we knew we were right and we stuck with it and we kept going. And then suddenly in 2013 we had a fantastic local election result, and in 2015 we got 4 million votes, and we managed to put enough pressure on to get our fantastic referendum and win it. And so we have had a huge influence, not just in Britain, but actually across Europe and the Americas as well, because we've reasserted the principle of nationhood. And we did that through hard work. We've been working at it for 27 years, and we're going to keep working at it, and we're going to keep stitching up our terrible establishment that thinks that it can avoid listening to the people of this country.
Well, you're not going to stitch anyone up coming sixth, are you? But, I mean, you didn't mention, actually, you did very well in 2014 in the European elections, when I forget how many seats you won, but you won a lot, didn't you? And you got a big share of the vote then. But you've done very, very eloquently dodged my question there. My question is, what is the point of UKIP when we've got Mr. Farage's Brexit party?
Well, it's an interesting question. If we do get Brexit actually delivered, anything like it, rather than just Brexit in name only, on October the 31st, then the question is what the Nick Cleggs of this world and the Gideon Osbornes of this world are going to continue doing. And my view is that they'll probably continue to campaign to take us back into the EU. And that would be very, very bad for this country, bad for Europe as a whole. And so it's going to be important to keep fighting and keep fighting for British independence. That's what our party name is all about. And there are lots of things in the world that we need to be independent from. We're seeing an international Marxist movement taking hold again in the West, and we need to be independent from that. You have Jeremy Corbyn with some absolutely bananas ideas about economics and how to run the country. We know that in the 20th century that kind of politics produced the deaths of at least 100 million people, and I don't want to see that politics in this country. I think most people don't. So there's lots of things that UKIP has to fight for. We fight for British independence and independence of thought as well as freedom as a country.
Now, you used a phrase there, Brexit in name only. So are you suggesting that you fear a sellout, a betrayal by Boris Johnson, and that you're not going anywhere after the UK leaves the European Union? You're still going to be around?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Tory party has behaved like cheap woman of ill repute. They tried to fake Brexit won under Theresa May with this withdrawal agreement, which was the most abject surrender. It was worse than what Japan signed at the end of the Second World War, and we haven't been bombed out and lost the war, so there's no reason we should have signed anything like that. So that was fake Tory Brexit won, and I've long suspected that we're soon going to see fake Tory Brexit too, as they concoct some other bogus Brexit and tell everybody, look, this is Brexit, and very likely it won't be. So I'm very nervous of that.
What about if we leave with no deal, which looks increasingly likely?
Well, no deal, I think is the wrong name for it. We used to call it leaving the European Union. Then about a year after the referendum, some clever people who are into neuro-linguistic programming decided, oh, this is a great phrase that we can use to describe actually leaving the EU because it's negative and it makes people feel bad about it. So that's what they mean by no deal. They mean leaving the EU. And that's what we voted for in 2016. So I'm not scared of no deal at all. No deal means actually leaving, and I think it's going to be fantastic for this country if we do actually leave. And I'm sure that very soon after we really leave, we're going to start to see some economic benefits of doing so.
Okay, so you favour no deal then, rather than some sort of deal with the European Union.
Can I just point out that the deal with the EU was always only ever going to come after we've left. They play hardball. They're good negotiators. They're sensible people. They're not going to hand over concessions until we've actually left, and that's what we've discovered over the last 3 years. Gerard Batten, my party's former leader, made this clear long ago in 2014 in a book he published, that that's how they do business. And by the way, Varoufakis, the Greek Prime Minister, also made this clear, that that's how they play the game. They play hardball, and this country instead has just lain down, absolutely prostrate, and allowed ourselves to be walked all over by them, and that's got to stop. And so I'm hoping that Boris Johnson is actually serious and turns around to the EU and says, right, we're out. What are you going to do about it? Let's do some deals. But we have left.
Now, you mentioned Gerard Batten, and I was going to ask you about him, your former leader, because he mixed with some pretty dodgy and undesirable company, didn't he? I'm thinking of Tommy Robinson, and rather tainted the UKIP brand, so much so that Sajid Javid, the new Chancellor, actually paid tribute to Mr Farage for disassociating himself with the rather right-wing elements that Mr Batten is doing business with. Are you going to carry on doing business with Tommy Robinson and people like him?
Well, you brought up a lot of subjects there to cover. So first of all, let me say that Tommy Robinson has never been a UKIP member because unlike
Mr Batten's attended rallies with him, hasn't he?
Yes, lots of people have, but let me finish, please.
Well, hold on. When you say lots of people, I think Mr Batten's about the only party leader who's had anything to do with Mr Robinson.
I'm politely asking you to let me answer the question you've asked me. Okay. So, first of all, Robinson can join the Tories and he can join Labour. They don't have rules against people who've been in prescribed organisations like the BNP joining, whereas UKIP does. So Tommy Robinson's never joined UKIP. He's never been able to join UKIP. He's never been an advisor to UKIP. And so, first of all, that needs to be laid to rest. But also, this whole issue of Tommy Robinson is blown up in the media love it, of course, and it's all about talking about one man. But in fact, he's done something important, along with many other people, which is...
He's done some pretty unpleasant things too, hasn't he?
Which is to draw attention to the fact that the establishment, the government in this country, told the police, according to Nazir Afzal, to turn a blind eye to the gang rape of, it turns out now, to be certainly tens of thousands of very vulnerable children.
Okay, so you're just peddling some Tommy Robinson propaganda there. I mean, it sounds to me as though you're going to continue down the same path as Mr Batten and continue to welcome Mr Robinson with open arms and perhaps share a platform with him.
Do you know who Nazir Afzal is?
I know the story you're referring to, yes, what Mr Robinson said, yes.
No, it's not about Robinson, it's about Nazir Afzal.
Yes, I know the story you're referring to, yes.
Okay, he was the Director of Public Prosecution.
Yes, I know all this in the northwest of England.
That's right, and he discovered that actually social services and police were not only were turning a blind eye to this industrial-scale rape of children.
You see, a lot of people would say that you're peddling racist propaganda now.
Well, it's nothing to do with race.
Well, of course it is.
Why? What race is it to do with?
Well, because the very fact that you're talking about these prosecutions and so on, or the allegations, you see, it does seem to me, Mr. Braine, that you are. I mean, I think you were supported by Gerard Batten, so we're going to get more of the same from you, obviously, as leader of UKIP, as continue down the same path as Mr. Batten. You see, and I come back. Surely that's not going to. You're going to carry on coming sixth, Mr. Farage and his party, who have had nothing to do with Mr. Robinson. They're going to be the ones who are challenging the Labour Party and the Conservatives. You're becoming a fringe party, aren't you?
This isn't about Tommy Robinson. The press loves to talk about him. It's not about that. It's about the fact that Labour, under Gordon Brown, actually instructed, as far as it seems from what Nazir Afzal has said, police forces around the UK to turn a blind eye to a particular kind of crime because the perpetrators of those crimes were of a particular race or religion. Now, that is racist. So it's the government and the establishment that have been racist.
You're making an allegation there.
Well, which
I'm sure that Gordon Brown and others would dispute.
Well, all I can say is look at the numbers. 84%, according to the Quilliam Foundation, of people in prison for this kind of crime come from 3% of the population. So I'm not making an allegation. There is a record on this. And, of course, the press want this story to go away. The establishment want this story to go away.
Let's leave Tommy Robinson alone. Let me just ask you quickly, because we're running out of time, and thank you for talking to us. But let me just ask you, how many seats are you going to fight at the next election, whenever it comes?
Well, that remains to be seen. Obviously, there may be some strategic thinking because we want Brexit delivered. We know that the Brexit vote can be split, as we saw in Brecon. So we may make some strategic decisions, but we'll decide on a as and when basis. We'll look at each constituency and we'll do our strategy and do it the way we want to. So I can't give you that information now. All I can tell you is that we want Brexit delivered, and that's the strategy that we will carry out to see how we can maximise the chances that we see a real Brexit if there is an election, a general election, before Brexit is delivered. OK,
Richard Braine, thank you very much. I look forward to the conversation if you bump into George Osborne. But you were certainly a good sport about that. Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you. And good luck in the new job.